Tuesday, November 2nd, Board of Directors regular meeting, 9 a.m. Right.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Let's do a roll call. Director Matthews.
Here.
Director Bradford.
Here.
Director Blazer.
Here.
Director Vasquez.
Here.
Director Fuhrer.
Here.
Director Hasty.
Here.
And Director Fletcher.
Here.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Okay, we're gonna let Randy do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Please stand. Salute. Pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Before we get into the board meeting itself, we have consider finding by a majority rule under the Government Code Section 54953. Did you want to read the rest of that?
No, I don't think it's necessary.
Okay.
If you have any questions, Mr. Shanahan can certainly assist.
As a result of the COVID-19 emergency, meeting fully in person would present imminent risk to the health or safety of attendees, and the meeting is authorized to be held by teleconference pursuant to Section 54953. Is there anything that you want to add to that?
Just to explain, as a follow-up to last month's board meeting where the board requested we have this option on the agenda. Obviously, all 7 members are here today, so it's not applicable today, but moving forward, this provision, if you renew it on a 30-day basis, will facilitate a director if he feels at risk attending a meeting personally, may participate via Zoom the same manner as public are participating via Zoom. So it gives you that flexibility moving forward for each director on a meeting by meeting basis to decide whether or not coming to this meeting room poses a health risk.
Okay.
Any questions?
All right.
Through the chair,
Go ahead.
it's probably appropriate that I would make that motion to approve this
Yes.
item.
I'll second.
We have a motion. We have a second by Mr. Director Heaty.
No, it was by Gary, but I have a question.
Okay.
Did the Board of Supervisors do the same thing?
We're going to.
You are, okay. As long as I did not want us to be sitting out here without you guys doing the same exact thing, because I don't think it looks good if we're the only board in this community that says we're declaring an emergency. So as long as the Board of Supervisors is going to do the same thing, I'm okay with it. All right.
Consistency, that's what
Fine,
we're
I
looking
just wanted
for
to
all
make
the
sure
time.
that
Okay. Approval, public comment.
we have to approve the item, don't we?
Yeah, we need to
Yeah.
take a vote on
Oh,
item
all
number 1.
I'm sorry. Motion is second. So all those in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Oh, the measure passes
Motion passes. Thank you very much.
unanimously. Okay, public
All right.
comment.
Good morning. Public comment is an opportunity for members of the public to address the Board of Directors on any subject matter that is not on the meeting agenda and is within this board's subject matter jurisdiction. Public comment periods are limited to 3 minutes per person, and the total amount of time for public comment is 15 minutes. Persons participating by way of a video conference or teleconference shall ensure their audio is muted at all times, except when the board chair announces public comment periods. At those designated times, members of the public wishing to speak shall enable their audio and state their name for the record. And when multiple members of the public wish to speak, the clerk will determine the order of speakers and announce their names accordingly. To ensure proper conduct, the board reserves the right to mute the audio and video of any member of the public violating generally accepted principles and decorum during official public meetings. Let's do public comment in the room first, Mr. Chair, if that's okay. And then we have a few online as well.
Okay.
Good. I think
This one, Charles
Charles is on item 4, I believe. Charles, did you have anything for public comment?
Item 4.
Yeah, for items that are not on the agenda today.
Yes.
You'll let it out of the bag there.
Good morning, Charles Sharp, Oregon House. I hope Director Vasquez is having a good day. I think the Yuba Water AG is generally doing a great job with helping the community out and funding different things and its efforts in the supporting our educational efforts in the community and around. So that's good. Let's see. Okay, I'll do that later. Regarding your grant process, a request is submitted, something happens, and then it appears on a board or a pod committee agenda. almost invariably, the board approves the grant, but not always, but mostly. This process is not very transparent. It was designed in a way that it doesn't, something goes in and it keeps things hidden until you're ready to vote. I humbly submit this process is not the most transparent way to work on behalf of the people of Yuba County. And that's all I have for this part. Thank you.
We do have one online. Let's start with Dr. Floor. We unmute.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to make sure I needed to ask a question. So I have a comment on a specific discussion item. So will there be an opportunity for public comment on the discussion item when we get to that?
Yes.
Okay, then I'll hold my comment till then. Thank you.
Very good.
Okay. All right. No more cards? Or no more
I am
people
not
online?
seeing any other public comment online.
All right, any comments from the public here? Okay. All right. Approval of the consent items.
So moved.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The measure passes unanimously. Okay, discussion items. Item 4, I'm going to pull 2 of the grants from this motion, the North Yuba Water District and the Water Education, and we'll pass the rest as item 4 for those 2. We'll go to the Water District.
Through the chair, could we
Yes.
just hear them all and then call them and then have them discuss? Let's discuss them all as the staff presents them, and then we can go back and have discussion on the ones that we worry about, if that's okay.
Okay, well, Terry is going to go through the grants.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair. The second half of last year, the board, made 2 really important moves to give a little more structure to our grants program. The first one was to pass a grants policy, and the second one was to earmark, I guess if I can use that term, up to $10 million a year as appropriate and as possible for the board to consider grants to the community. So up to $10 million a year. So in the grants policy, we designated 2, the grants policy outlines all the criteria for a grant. It's things like, is it within the water agency's mission? Is it a not-for-profit or an other governmental agency? Things like that. The other thing it does is outlines that there are 2 grant windows every year, one in March and one in September. So what you're seeing today is the result of the September window of grant applications. I do want to remind you that, we like, as stated in our policy, to pay the local share of state and federal grants, and sometimes we don't exactly know when those grant opportunities are going to become available. So every once in a while, there might be a grant that comes to you not in March and September. It's because a window opened up and there's still money left in the $10 million. So today you are seeing, these are the grant applications we received during the September window. What happens when those grants come in on our website, and you got a lot of paper this time, if you printed it out or if you're just looking. We give the board and we put up on board docs everything we get with regard to a grant application. And you might have noticed that we restructured the application online to be very specific areas to answer the questions that we need to know as addressed in our grants policy. So one of the questions, for instance, is which one of the strategic priorities in the Yuba Water strategic plan does this grant help progress? towards those grants. So there's actually very specific questions, and those questions then are rated by your grants team. And your grants team on staff are your grant program area managers and a couple other people. So the grant program manager areas are Ryan McNally for flood risk reduction. For water supply and watershed health, it's Joanna Lassard. For water education, it's Creighton Avila. For water conservation and the Bill Shaw grants, it's Jackie Silman. In addition to those folks, I sit on that team. Your director of finance, Curtis Crawford, sits on the team. Jim Matrician sits on the team, and folks from procurement and contracts. So we go through that process. We actually score every grant application that comes in. And then we look at how much money we have available. We look at what was asked for. And just by those scores, that's how we come up with this list of the summary list of grants that staff recommends to the pod. And then we also show you which ones weren't recommended during this time period. So these grants that you're seeing today were taken to the pod on October 19th. Thank you. On October 19th. Every time we go through this process, every grant window, we try to improve it a little more. I think one of the things we'd like to try to improve is better summaries so that our board members don't have to go through 60 pages of paper. But we really want you to be able to see everything that was submitted by a grantee, and frankly, for the public to be able to see everything that was submitted as well. So these are the grants. This summary chart is attached to the agenda item. It says there are 9 grants that we're recommending for approval and that your pod committee is recommending for approval. There's actually only 8, and that's because the Camptonville Community Services District, which was requesting $11,759, received a state grant to do that work. So they withdrew that $11,000. So the total requested comes down to $1,481,665. And that's the total request. And then for this fiscal year, it's $501,655. So some of that 1.5 million is for future years as well. So you might be committing, for instance, a really good example of that is RD 2103. They think they'll spend about 75 grand this year in getting ready for the project, and the rest of the money would be next year. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions. If not, I will turn it over to we're just going to quickly go through all of these grants so that you can ask the grant program managers any questions about specific grants. They're the ones that know them the best.
Okay, I have pulled two of them from the discussion here, and we'll bring them up for discussion at the end after we pass these grants. That's okay?
Through the chair. So the process before, the people coming to request a grant came before a committee or came before this board. The way it's set up now, we don't see the people requesting. We just, the staff is doing all of the interviewing and rating without the board input. And I think that we need to, like you say, we're still trying to improve it. I think the improving part is that either comes before the committee or the board, the people that are actually asking for the money, so the board or the committee can ask questions.
So we invite, and in fact, we request the grant applicants to attend both the pod committee meeting to make any presentation, and also at this meeting. You'll notice that both online and in person today, all of the grantees are present.
Thank you.
So through the chair, let me reiterate what I heard. We haven't really, you have to excuse me. I actually am a lot better, by the way. little leftover
You're
from
in school that sent you home.
probably. So I have to say, this isn't a great change in terms of the public is still there, the transparency is still there, everything is still there, but it's a lot more organized. I really appreciate staff putting this together in such a way that it makes a lot more sense to put together a large budget in a formal process. Makes a lot of sense. Thank you for doing that. You've put a lot of work into it. That doesn't mean that we can't modify it and adjust it as we tweak it to make it even better. But it's really good the way it is compared to the way it was. So thank you for that.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, can I make a comment? So I want to clarify, and I think Director Fletcher did as well, is yes, the process has changed, but what we've done is made it more efficient. What we haven't done is taking any steps out of the process. What it used to be is requests would come in throughout the year. There was no organization as to when requests would come in, and then we would take them to the pod and the board as individual items. What we've done now is we've brought them together in groupings in March and September. There's not a step in the process that's been removed from the way we've done it in the past. It's the same process, it's just more organized.
Also requested, as you said, they show up for the grant. Otherwise, that could influence our decision, right? Okay. All right.
So if I could turn it over to, first I want to turn it over to our Director of Finance, Curtis Crawford, to just show you the $10 million chart and where we stand on it, and then we'll go to the program managers.
Thanks, Terry. Good morning. So I quickly wanted to go through the activity so far against the $10 million investment target that's outlined in that community impact grant program policy that Terry mentioned before. And then from there, we'll toss it over to the program area managers. So I took the summary sheet that Terry showed and put it into our tool that has become sort of a staple in the pod agenda packets and ABP agenda packets. So this is supplemental to everything that you received in your packets. There's a lot of information there. This is maybe the one piece of paper in the world that was not in that packet. So I'll go through it here. I'll quickly go over how this is organized. As we mentioned, we have the program areas, so flood risk reduction. Community water projects was basically the Bill Shaw grant program. Water conservation, education, water supply and management, watershed resilience, and then grant totals there at the bottom. From left to right, carry forward. Those are commitments against prior year $10 million buckets. And the dollars were not spent in those years. So we're carrying it forward for a budgeting purpose. But it was a prior year $10 million bucket. Future $10 million investment targets are in the rest of the columns from left to right from fiscal year 2022 through fiscal year 2026, as we're starting to commit further out into the future. Down at the bottom, hopefully this isn't too small.
On Bill Shaw, is that an extra zero by accident?
So it's $100,000 is the placeholder that we put expecting 10 Bill Shaw grants. The carry forward and 10,000 from prior year, that's one Bill Shaw grant that didn't disperse. And down below is the total. So our target as outlined in the community impact grant program policy, and that $10 million comes from our long range forecast, which demonstrates that that $10 million investment target is sustainable. So we have that target activity in FY 2022, our current year. Our total is $9.98 million with an uncommitted balance of just under 20,000. That'll be plus the 11,000 and change from the Camptonville Community Services District. That one is included in here, but as Terry mentioned, they withdrew the application. They were successful at obtaining some other grant funds. Same system from left to right. You can see that there's roughly $3.5 million committed in fiscal year 2023. And in fiscal year 2026, there's already $896,000 committed against that $10 million investment target. In yellow is all of the activity from the September window. As Terry mentioned, using RD 2103 as an example, $75,000 is anticipated for the current fiscal year. The balance is in the future fiscal year. So we would rather not have a carry forward. We want to budget this in the proper fiscal year against a proper $10 million bucket. So when a schedule is provided, we try to adhere to that. Same thing for the Yuba College line item is across multiple fiscal years. So given this kind of summary of how we're tracking against that $10 million investment target that we've set up, I'll switch back to just the grants that we're talking about in the September application window, and then turn it over to Creighton Avila to talk about water education.
Which way? It seems like every time I come up here, I have an issue with the mic, the camera. Hope it's getting my good side.
All right.
Water education.
Is this a grant? Water education?
Yeah, so the grant here is for Yuba College when it comes to a watershed program locally. Two things about the watershed program. You would bring classes here for certificate programs, so individuals could get into the watershed right away and get certificates and get into the workforce. Then also we'd have a 2-year program where people could get educated here and move on to a 4-year program. The key thing about this is those individuals will be doing work in our watershed, so internships and things like that. So, and hopefully accessing federal dollars, so work study dollars. So those individuals through Yuba College will be doing that. So that'd be start of a new program that they would be developing here. Looking at supply and demand for different areas within the watershed, benchmarks and local needs here. Then in addition is keeping individuals who want to get their education here and work locally here as well. Any questions about the program?
Yeah, I guess I have a few.
Did I pull that?
As far as other colleges in the area, it seems that I think it's Sierra has a watershed program currently, and they're not being subsidized by us. Why is it that Yuba College needed us to pay for the instructor for this program?
So initially to get the program started, they needed help for doing that. To sustain and we asked those questions as well, sustaining the program into the future that it could get its funding moving forward when it comes to meeting its early outcomes, next stage outcomes, and both mid and late outcomes. But in addition to that, looking locally on what it's going to do here when we talk about supply and demand, local benchmarks and local needs. But to answer this even more, we have Michael Bagley here as the Dean of STEM and Social Sciences with Yuba College. So you can answer this more in depthly as well.
Excuse me. I thought I pulled this for discussion. Did I pull this for discussion? I pulled 2 of them. One is the North Yuba Water District, and the other one was the Water Education Grant. So this would be the discussion for each of those. Okay, well, I pulled those 2 so that we could discuss them separately. Okay, and
we can vote on them separately, but why don't we discuss it and then we can vote, we can make the motion separating those 2.
okay. All right. We're halfway through it.
Good morning, board members. Thank you for allowing me to be here today to speak and answer questions. My name is Michael Bagley. I'm the Dean of STEM and Social Sciences at Yuba College. And I had the privilege of working with a lot of members of the Yuba Water Agency like Joanna Lassard, Creighton Avila, Dee Dee Cordell, and many others. And I will share to the board that the process for the grants was pretty, pretty impressive and very organized and rigorous. That it was something that took a lot of time on the Yuba College part to really come together to create this application that you are seeing today. I also want to thank our executive leadership at Yuba College. Our president, Tawny Dotson's back here, and the executive vice president, Carla Tweed, are giving me strength. Always a little exciting when you're on camera talking to a board. But I'd like to maybe start off by addressing board member Fuhr. It's a really great question about other colleges and being financially responsible. I can tell you that anytime you start a career technical education program, it's a pretty large investment. And I can tell you that Sierra College right now has a program that they're using essentially categorical money prior to saying it's going to stay. So it's very common for colleges to get seed money to invest in a program to see how it goes and how it works. After this trial period, or say the pilot project, it is our hope that we will, fully make it our general fund and make it a tenure track position. But I just want to share with you that there's a whole bunch of other money that we're going to put into the program beyond. So we have skin in the game besides Yuba Water agency. That I just want to share with you, it's pretty common to have seed funding to start a program. Any other questions for me?
All right.
Go ahead.
Don?
Well, I'm just trying to get up to speed as to why Yuba Water Agency is getting into this phase of the education. And I'm trying to better understand why Yuba College feels they need our support. Kind of a vague question. I read through some of the grant application questions, and a lot of the Yuba College answers were very vague also. There was nothing really too specific about any of them. And I'm also wondering where this program is going and what our commitment is. I think that's written down somewhere. And how much control the agency has over this curriculum. I don't know, that's a lot of vague questions, but try it.
Well, Trustee Blazer, I appreciate those questions. With regard to being vague, it wasn't intentional. It's just a very large concept of watershed education, watershed management, workforce. Even behind the scenes, myself and others from Yuba College have worked with local agencies in the region to talk about workforce needs, projections for future jobs. It's evolving. The person we're hiring is meant to solidify the details. I can give you things that are common to career technical education programs. We're going to create curriculum based on industry demand. We're going to create curriculum based on industry demand and transfer college requirements for the 2 levels and tracks that this program will serve.
Excuse me if I may.
Yeah.
The reason I pulled this and the reason I pulled the water district is because of the length of discussion that we're going to have. And I was going to try and let the other people go first. So if we could bring that back after we do item 6, I would love to do that. All right. Thank you. All right, I pulled those 2 items because we were going to have a lot of discussion on those 2 items. Is that
Okay, so you would like to hear the North Yuba Water District and the Yuba College grant request after item 6?
After items.
Got it. And we're just going to go
Actually, yes.
quickly through the rest of them, the rest of the grants.
So that we can let the other people don't have to.
Got it. So let's.
I'll move the rest of the grants other than those 2. If we need speed, I'll just move those, barring those 2 on the grant list.
Okay, we have a motion for all the other grants. Are there any questions?
I think that there was going to be a presentation on each and every single one of them.
There was, but I mean, we're going to skip it if we need speed. I just thought I'd make the motion. If there's not a second, it's fine. I'll second that. I would like to get out of the meeting too, but I'd also like to be able to hear these sometime today. So if the rest of them are fine, then.
Well, the reason for pulling it was to place it where we can release some of these people out of there.
Motion, you have a second?
And if they need, would you like to hear every item?
Yes,
Okay.
please.
I would like to make sure and skip these 2 items and we'll have them last.
You have a motion and a second on the floor. You have to take that?
Okay?
You want discussion on that?
Yes.
Personally, I'd just soon have them do a brief presentation so I can put a face to the grant.
Okay.
That's what I like.
I would agree with that too.
Okay. So on the motion, we need a vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, those opposed?
No.
No.
Okay. Motion is,
Great, thank you. So we will go back to the top of the list and the Bill Shaw grants, and that's Jackie Stone.
thank you.
Don't hurry. Okay. I know. Thank you very much. I am honored to be able to talk to you about the Bill Shaw. This is a community impact grant program that the purpose of the Bill Shaw grant is to better equip and train first responders that provide emergency response or rescue services. That's the Bill Shaw grant. So first up, we actually have 2 that came through on this grant cycle. So and they're each for $10,000. The first one is the Dobbins Oregon House Fire Department. And they applied for basically some mutual aid as they go into the, communities. The equipment requested for the Wildland Fire Truck high pressure water pumps, some low flow strainers. I don't know what any of this means, but gated wires, barrel strainers, and on and on and on. So on the Yuba River, the Bullard Bar, Marysville Road, and the communities of Dobbins and Oregon House is where they do all of their services. We do have the fire chief on Zoom if there are any questions. And
Any questions from the board?
On the Smartsville, it looked like there was going to be a match. Is that correct?
so on the Smartsville one, what we have here is, let me read this. Oh, the Bill Shaw grant to leverage approximately 20,000. So correct. They have applied for that CAL FIRE grant. And also the Smartsville Fire Chief is on the line if there's any more questions for that. But theirs is, it's overall for handheld radios. Some of their equipment's expired. So it's, again.
One of our criteria was being, I think was mentioned earlier, part for local match so that we can see more funds flowing. And so that's where that one was right on target. So I just wanted to make sure I understood that correctly.
I understand.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah. Any questions to either fire chief?
Questions from the board?
Jackie, historically, the Bill Shaw has been around for how long?
I'm going to have to defer to Terry. It's before my time.
Oh, really?
Can you believe
4
that?
years? For 4 years.
Yeah. From an employee that, of course, was hurt on the job, who wanted to make sure to pass this forward for that first that fire protections and safety.
Okay, thanks. Great program.
Great.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd so move to accept the replacement and the equipment grants.
All right.
Okay.
We have any comments from the public on this particular item?
Charles Sharp.
Charles.
I'll second since we have a motion on the floor.
Thank you, Charles Sharp. I strongly encourage you to make this grant. This fire department is my fire department. And with this equipment, it might put out the fire that might burn down my house. Please pass it. Thank you very much.
Okay. All right, we got a first and a second. All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Measure passes. All right.
Okay.
So to be specific, that was just for the Bill Shaw grants.
This, right, for Smartsville.
So the next category is flood risk reduction, and that program area manager is Ryan McNally, who is joining us by Zoom. Ryan?
Yeah, thanks, Terry. Hopefully everyone can hear me okay. So good morning, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. Ryan McNally, program manager for flood risk reduction, and my apologies for not being there in person this morning. Today's one of those days where I'm attempting to be in 10 places at once. So before you this morning, we have a very straightforward project for Reclamation District 2103, and that is to further improve flood risk reduction to a rural area just east of Wheatland. And generally speaking, the reclamation districts, and especially the rural districts, operate on a shoestring budget primarily targeted toward O&M, and typically don't have much in the way of capital improvement budgets. This is especially true when talking about unfunded initiatives such as required improvements to comply with FEMA flood certifications. These districts generally consist of relatively few landowners, primarily farmers, and assessments are kept as low as possible since there isn't a large ratepayer base to spread the cost. Fortunately, and unique to us in Yuba County, the agency is in a position to help these landowners as we work collectively to improve flood protection for all areas on the valley floor. And the recommendation this morning is part of a larger ask to certify the Grasshopper Slough levee to achieve FEMA 100-year criteria. The entire project will remove several pipe penetrations, apply 1,500 tons of 12-inch riprap along around 1,000 or so feet of the water side of the levee, and backfill an unlined ditch along the landside levee toe. I think as Terry mentioned earlier in this presentation, the grant funding cycle couldn't support the full project. So we've recommended a partial award of $75,000 to eliminate the pipe penetrations. And that can be achieved over the next several months. And it coincides with the construction window. But the plan will then be to award the rest of the project during the next grant funding cycle as the next construction season begins. And I'm happy to answer any questions of the board.
Any questions from the board?
Through the chair. Ryan, a quick question. One of the things you said is this is a rural district. And I just want to point out that on the city that we had in the paper, the city talking about what was happening in the cities. I mean, they are rapidly becoming an urban district. You've got 105 homes being built right now. If this is certified to 100-year, there'll be more homes. My question is 2103 prepared to raise the rates on the urban areas so that they can maintain and capitalize their own? I mean, and again, I go back to I'm in 784, I pay a fortune. It's worth it to have the protection I've got. But I just want to make sure that at some point we need to quit saying 2103 is an ag district when it's rapidly becoming the city of Wheatland and it's one of the fastest growing areas in the county. So I just wanted to bring that up and hope that you'll take that message back to 2103, that if they're becoming an urban area, we need to start talking like they're an urban area.
No, that's a great point, Director Hasty, and I will certainly take that back to Mr. Engler, who's their district engineer, and actually couldn't be here this morning. He had a planned vacation out of state. But yeah, there have been discussions. You know, obviously there's been talk about consolidations with the 817 and I think they can see it on the horizon, but I will make sure that dialogue evolves accordingly.
Thank you. And with that, I'll make the motion to support this item.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public?
Can I ask a point of clarification? The way it is worded in the chart, are you making the motion for the full $495,000 with 75 this year and 320 next year?
Is that how staff is recommending it? That's fine.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to also point out that most of the rural districts, the farmers are on the board. I've seen the farmers out burning the levees and doing actual work in the districts. So that's one of the reasons they keep their costs down. But likewise, our mission is flood control, water development. This fits exactly what we're keyed to do.
Okay, any further comments from the public? We'll bring them back to the board. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay. It's 4-1, passes. We'll skip water education at this point in time and we'll go to water supply.
Okay, for water supply and watershed resilience, I'd like to ask Joanna Lassard. She is joining us by Zoom. She is the program manager for both of those areas. And Joanna, if you could perhaps address all of those and accept North Yuba Water District and take that one last? No.
North Yuba Water District is next.
So you would not like a summary of the North Yuba Water District project now? You want me to summarize it at the end?
Correct.
Correct. Okay, it's all yours, Joanna. Thanks.
Okay, great. Good morning, everyone. I'm happy to be here. We do have 3 projects in the water supply and water management program that were submitted this round. I'm just going to talk about the 2 for the city of Marysville currently, and we'll talk about the North Yuba Water District when you're ready. So both of the City of Marysville grants are for Ellis Lake Quality Improvement Project. Just for a little bit of background, Ellis Lake and issues of Ellis Lake and improvements of the lake have been addressed through a multi-stakeholder ad hoc committee for, I believe, a few years now. And just, for the public's knowledge, urban shallow lakes are very difficult to manage aesthetically and ecologically. So because they tend to be shallow and because they're in an urban setting, they tend to be very nutrient rich, which leads to either problematic algal blooms or problematic weed species that both often need interventions to maintain a high quality environment. So the ad hoc committee is working on a longer term Ellis Lake improvement plan. These projects that are brought to you today are interim projects that will help improve the lake's condition in the short term and or help leverage external funding. So I'm going to talk about the first one first, or project 2 first, Ellis Lake Water Quality Improvement Project. This project is $142,300 to do 2 interventions to the lake. The first would be to apply a chemical, it's called a Proxygen and Phosphlag. What these compounds do is they bind up suspended nutrients, particularly phosphorus, and pull those down into the sediment so that they're no longer what they call bioavailable to algae, and that will help clear up the water. The second intervention will be to capture and reduce the carp population. Carp are a bottom feeding fish species. They wiggle around in the sediments and actually suspend sediments, so they actually add to water clarity and aesthetic problems in lakes. So by reducing the carp population as well as reducing the bioavailable phosphorus, that should clear up the water for several years in a row. So that's an interim project, an intervention that hopefully will improve conditions while the ad hoc committee, which is led by HDR, comes up with a longer term solution for the lake. So that's the first grant. Are there any questions on that one? Should I summarize the second one?
Any questions from the board?
Yeah, so far we spent approximately, is it $500,000 studying the issues with Ellis Lake?
My understanding is we've committed $240,000 to HDR. That's not spent. We've committed that contract to have HDR help develop the long-term plan. I'm not certain the status of that budget, but that's not spent, that's committed. And then there was about approximately $40,000 spent on lake aeration, which aeration is another interim measure intervention often used in lakes to help maintain water quality.
Is there an estimate for what our final cost for the Ellis Lake improvement is going to be?
I don't believe there's a final budget for the plan. I don't believe there's a final plan nor a budget for the final plan. It's in development, is my understanding.
Well, yeah, I can briefly talk about that. On the ad hoc committee, this is an interim plan, Willie, maybe 3 to 5 year possibility, to give us a chance to see what alternative water sources might be and what the total cost might be, but all that is still way out there. We're still working on that. Ellis Lake is in the top 3 as issues probably for the people of Marysville and the surrounding area. Obviously, it's very visible. It's been on people's conversation for 40 to 50 years probably, but it's very visible. We want to get it back to where it's partly usable, and this interim thing may help do that. Thanks.
Okay. Any further comments from the board? Any comments from the public? All right. The next,
Mr. Chair, I'll move approval.
We have one more.
There's still one more item.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was, excuse me.
So the next final grant in this round is the Ellis Lake Improvement Project Historic Resource Evaluation Report. So what this is a study to evaluate around the lake valuable historic resources, so that as the city develops projects that may include land disturbance and goes for grants to pay for those projects, like sidewalks or different types of hardscaping. Those projects will require this type of report for CEQA in order to get those projects permitted. So this information will not only help in the planning of those projects, but also in getting external grants to help pay for those projects.
Okay. All right.
They've got a budget of $12,255.
Any questions from the board? Any questions from the public? Bring it back to the board. All right. Who's going to handle watershed resilience? We'll do this one.
So I think we need to move on those particular things. So I'll move for the HRER grant of $12,255.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Yes.
Aye. Any opposed?
I'll make the motion on the 142,300 for the Ellis Lake Water Quality Improvement Project.
I would second that.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Okay. All right. Campbellville is not in there any longer, and watershed
The bill
resilience.
was already funded. Okay, so moving on to the Watershed Resilience Program, we had one application within this program area, and that's the Yuba County RCD for $8,100 to support the RCD staff conducting a needs assessment. So the purpose of this project is to really help the newly formed Yuba RCD find gaps in services. So, RCDs are very important in linking communities, particularly agricultural communities, to state and federal funding. The RCD has been working with the Yuba Fire Safe Council quite a lot to look at how they can support foothills resilience. And there's quite a lot of overlap in purpose, and they're wanting to do a needs assessment to try to find gaps that they can fill rather than risk duplicating effort. So that's what this grant would fund.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
How much of this grant is going towards paying for them to do a retreat? Is it like $2,000 per board member?
I don't believe this grant's related to the retreat.
In the breakdown of the $8,000, how it was spent?
Is perhaps somebody from the RCD on here? Because I actually don't have any information on the retreat.
Maybe I misread it. Does somebody have
like
that?
anyone from the RCD attend?
I'm Creighton Avila, and I help along in that area of watershed resilience as well. Promise this time I won't recommend AV equipment. From the beginning of the development of this, the water for the RCD, they're working with the state association, and they have an individual at the state association that does needs assessments. The RCD wasn't around for a long time, so they don't know what gaps totally to fill. We worked with them to look at some of those gaps. So generally they do know. Large scale, when it comes to large scale forest treatment, they know some things like that, but there's other programs that they don't know who's filled the gaps since they've been gone and where are the gaps currently. So when I was working with them, they had gotten a total from a consultant to do the needs assessment here and come here and help them with that needs assessment and go out into the community. So this is part of the charge for that consultant. Only part. They're getting another part of that through. I hadn't heard anything about a retreat. So, and if there isn't, I can double back with them on that. It's probably when she comes here.
I see the budget here. Thanks, Creighton, for that. I do see what you're talking about with regard to the retreat. I believe what this is a very focused meeting that would be conducted via a retreat to come up with their strategic direction. And so that's what that budget item is for. So it's for them for the consultant to work with the board based on the needs assessments conducted during the previous phases and come up with a strategic plan during a focused retreat-based workshop to come up with that plan. So that is what I think that's the retreat you're talking about for $6,800 as the final task in this budget.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further comments from the board?
I'll make the motion, we approve.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any comments from the public? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
No.
Okay, measure passes. All right. I thought we were going to go to North Yuba Water District.
Is that your preference, Mr. Chair, that we take North Yuba Water District now and take the Yuba College grant after item number 6?
Yes.
Okay. Could we, Joanna, do you want to do the North Yuba Water
Sure.
District grant, please?
Sure. So yes, so this application from the North Yuba Water District is a quantification of water conservation and water market feasibility study for $104,000. So this study will evaluate water conservation measures that have already been implemented and or could be implemented, and quantification of water savings and potential water quality benefits of those measures. So there is discussion in the grant around potential economic growth opportunities associated with the potential results of this study. Another benefit of this study would be water savings quantification associated with the Fortstown Ditch Pipeline Replacement Project. A requirement of getting particularly federal and state funding for ditch to pipeline projects is quantification of water savings and impacts. When the Sickar Ditch grant was funded, that the requirement in that application was extensive quantification of water savings. So the results of this study would support that project potentially getting external funding.
Okay. Any questions from the board?
Yes. I'm sorry, go ahead.
Up there. I have some basic problems. The first problem is that we're involved in water development and flood control. I attended a pod meeting many months ago when the pipeline project was being discussed. It was my understanding the pipeline will have they will save 35% of the water that they're losing. But at the same time, they're putting in a pipeline that is way less than what the needs of South Feather and the irrigation needs of the community. And the reason I'm focused on irrigation is that when we have fires in the mountains like we had the Loma Rica fire, the only areas that didn't burn is where they had irrigation. And it's also my understanding that in the years from 20 to 2010, the district gave ag water out and did it every year. And then when I look at a timeline in the last 10 years, there's been very little ag water. So when you look at the Pritchard contract they have with the agency, the one dated the 27th was to develop markets both in and outside the district. And as everyone can imagine, the water being sold outside of the district is a much higher cost. So if you're on their board and you're looking to make sure the organization can continue, you need income. And their basic income right now is the water that they sell with South Yuba or South Feather to Yuba City. That also might not count for their beneficial use of their water rights And if they lose water rights, the community, which is all of the hills, would have less water. They also have the problem of the joint ditch, which again, going back to this pipeline, they call it the upper Fordstown ditch, is has an obligation with South Feather to deliver water. And I think we need to be very careful when we want to give water and make it water savings, and the water saved is going to go outside the county. Now, when you looked at the Pritchard contract, the 27th, May 27th, they have a May 29th that was in our packet, and they added Yuba County Water Agency as a possible sale or in the context of in and out of the district.
But Charlie, this is a study only.
I think that we as a board need to hear from North Yuba a little bit more about how the purpose of the money to be spent, because I think we're in the water development business rather than the water restricted business. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
This is merely a study, and everything you pretty much brought up is things that have to be discussed at the North Yuba Water Board. We don't make those decisions for them. So this is for the study only. I wanted to define that.
Yeah.
So
I think
based upon that.
But I think the understanding we as a board can say, I'm not against the study,
okay,
but we are in the water development business for Yuba County, not water development business for outside it.
Okay. They requested a grant for a study.
Yes.
Is that something you agree with?
With that thing, I would so move.
Okay. Would that be on?
I'll second it, but I know Seth has questions.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
So-
We got a second?
I'll second.
Okay. All right.
So if
Further
the,
comments?
yeah, so if the person from North Yuba Water is here, then I can ask them directly.
Hi, Crystal Martin. I'm on right now on behalf of
Crystal.
North Yuba Water District.
Thank you. So the word water marketing is in the caption, and so that's where I think that there's been a lot of friction in the community about it. Is the purpose of this to look at the market of selling the water out of the district?
So going back to a little bit of the background for this, we have in 2005, there was an agreement that took place with South Feather Water Power that dramatically changed the operation of the district. And that 2005 agreement took effect in 2010, which is when we saw a dramatically less amount of water that was available to divert for the irrigation customers. One of the ways that we can try to get back to a more normal season for irrigation, and also more importantly, to make sure that North Yuba is doing what they need to do to maintain their water right, which is, like Director Matthews said, we need to put it to beneficial use. But the other thing that was told to North Yuba is that they also have to get their system to acceptable losses. And in order for us to get a baseline for that, this study comes into play, where they're looking at what is already taking place in the district for conservation of water, and then how will that change as, say, projects come on board, like piping the Forbstown ditch later on. So what making the baseline for the conservation of water, and then the second piece of this is then what can you do with that water? What are the opportunities? There is an existing contract to sell water with Yuba City that I believe goes through 2025. But as we all know, water and water prices have changed a lot. So there's a lot of opportunity for the district. We want to see the district be successful long-term, and to have those same opportunities that a lot of the other irrigation and water districts in the county have right now.
Thank you.
Okay. Any further questions?
I think you have a lot of public comment on it.
No questions? All right. I guess we'll go to public comment. Charles Sharp.
Hello, Charles Sharp. I have something for you to put in the record. Report that was done in 1953. That's just a little part of it, but it lays out how they envision irrigation water for the entire foothill area. And that's why they got allocated this 23,700 acre feet for the irrigation water. The piping project they want to put in will only carry 3,700 acre feet. And it's a restriction. It will restrict the water available to the whole area, not make it more. So the idea that this pipe is going to bring water, it will bring a little bit more water marginally, but it won't. It will restrict the water coming to the district to that 3,700 acre feet. That's why it's not a desirable project to do. I've said this before, I think, this before you. The other thing, did this go through the IRWMP process? Because I'm not sure I saw it on their agenda anywhere. I'm not quite sure how it got on. You know, I think all projects like this are supposed to go through there first. And I monitored their, their publications and everything, and I didn't see it. So I haven't quite had a chance to figure out what happened there. But it's a question I have.
I think that's a question for the water board itself.
Well, it's for the IWRMP or how it went through, but that's another question. So this water district is embroiled in at least 5 lawsuits. Its general manager has a questionable employment history, misrepresents the facts, and intentionally withholds water. Selling this water contradicts and is counter to the agency's mission of preserving and protecting resources for communities in Yuba County. And why would the Yuba Water Agency want to support this? Director Hasty, the antics going on with this water district deserve a few chapters in the Dreamland sequel, in which you are part of the story. Anyway, this is the water agency will be supporting the water district in trying to sell its water outside the district's boundary. That is what this money will go toward. It will support this research or this study, but this company, Provost and Pritchard, was hired to research water markets like Southern California or wherever outside of the boundary. That was why they are hired. And this grant would help support the water district's effort to figure out how to sell its water outside the boundary and and take it out of Yuba County. So thank you.
All right, Charles. Marik Bernie, did I pronounce that right? Okay.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Start timer.
I will be a little emotional because it's a very emotional issue. Please. Dear board members of the Yuba Water Agency, it came to my attention that you are today considering to approve a grant to the North Yuba Water District for $104,000 to help them pay for the water sale feasibility study that they ordered from Provost and Pritchard. I would assume that you all are informed that the district has refused to deliver any irrigation water to its long-term customers this year, again, blaming drought and all that. This being said, at the same time, they are trying to present a case to the regulators that they have saved water and could get a permit to sell the water that they saved. First, consider this. You have actually served irrigation water to your customers under the same drought conditions for the same 10 years that we were not. How would the District 10 farmers have reacted if you would have categorically just refused to make a good faith effort to deliver even the little water that there was this year? Imagine that for a moment, please. North Yuba did that, just categorically refused, despite assurances from South Feather that water was actually available and that conveyance issues could be resolved in a matter of weeks via mutual aid. Without the bondage, they know how to do this. North Yuba refused They refused to offer of mutual aid. They refused to agendize it for 6 meetings in a row. They refused to deliver a draft. Then they incurred legal costs because these decisions are being challenged in court, as they should be. North Yuba's legal costs run about $100,000 a month now. They would have just delivered a little water. They wouldn't be begging you for a grant for $100,000 that they pay to their lawyers per month. Sorry, I'll resume. And to make matters worse, North Yuba ordered a water sale feasibility report from Provost and Pritchard to study the possibilities selling water that North Yuba does not want to deliver. They should be studying how to deliver more water to the district to deliver to the 1,500 annexed customers that are waiting for water for 60 years after being promised in 1950. It is so hard to believe that they ask you to pay for that report. They do have $4 million in reserve, and if they had just delivered a modest amount of water, I said that. South Feather said that North Yuba has gone rogue. I quote, "There's no leadership." My question to you is, do you really want to support the district any further? Do you wish to be complicit in the way they are mistreating their customers? Do you really wish your good name to be lost by association to North Yuba? You have such good things going at the moment. You partner with Circle, Blue Forest, you advertise on Cap Radio, all these wonderful grants. You give grants to good things. Please, don't give a grant to bad things. North Yuba refusing to serve their customers should give you pause. North Yuba restricting water delivery to 3,000 acre feet instead of planning to develop the full 20,000 acre feet for farming should give you pause. Remember, small farms for food production is economic development, and it happens to be my neighbor's livelihood that we're talking about. Don't contribute to the sale of our water. Don't contribute to the degradation of small plants and good soil in the foothills. Don't contribute to raising the fire danger in the foothills in one hand, while the other hand offers forest management. It just doesn't make sense. Even if Supervisor Fletcher really appreciates the general manager of North Yuba, it doesn't make sense for the Yuba Water Agency to be associated with the misguided actions of this district. I urge you to not approve this grant.
Thank you very much. All right.
At the moment, we have one
Questions
member
from
of
the
the
board?
public online, sir, from member of the public.
Okay.
Ms. Floor, go ahead.
Thank you. Ms. Martin didn't actually answer the question that the board member posed. She kind of threw a word salad at it and tossed a lot of stuff in there and basically didn't answer the question. And bottom line is, you can put lipstick on a pig and it's still a pig. And this study is for the sole purpose of justifying selling water outside the district and not giving that water to the North Yuba Water District irrigation customers. So I wanted to point out to the Yuba Water Agency and also to, and I know Ms. Lesser, that your organization was involved in looking at these grant applications. And I've said this before, I'm going to repeat this. So once again, on this particular grant application, North Yuba has played fast and loose in putting incorrect data on their application. Once again, North Yuba has thrown a number to see if it sticks. This time, the general manager is claiming 50% losses in the ditch. Depending on the grant application or the report where Maupin has provided a consultant with information, in the last 3 years, he's claimed anywhere from 30, 35, 45, 50, 60, up to 75% losses. Not all of these can be true. And where is the math to support any of these claims? And in fact, the math doesn't support it. To provide South Feather their 3,720 acre feet of water, if you have a 50% loss, as Maupin claims, North Yuba would have to run 5,580 acre feet of water through the ditch. That would use up 1,860 acre feet of our water and would only leave 1,000 acre feet for irrigation. Since, for example, in 2019, Maupin left 1,000 acre feet in Little Grass Valley Reservoir, you can easily see that it's virtually impossible for North Yuba Water District ditches to have a 50% loss. And recently, South Feather made an offer, a very kind offer, to get our losses down to approximately 10%, which they said they could do in less than a week. So the Yuba Water Agency really needs to stop and ask itself, do the Yuba Water Agency directors, who are also elected county supervisors, want to be seen as being supportive of a water district that is doing absolutely nothing to serve its customers, and in fact has been actively refusing to provide service to its customers due to personal bias against specific individuals? Are Yuba Water Agency directors willing to risk your standing as county supervisors to line the pockets of a water district that has proven itself incapable of doing its one job, maintaining infrastructure and delivering water? Do your directors want to support a water district general manager and board that are fiscally irresponsible? North Yuba currently spends the majority of its funds on frivolous, unjustified lawsuit against South Feather, a lawsuit with no evidence to back up the charges. At the current rate of expenditure, North Yuba will have spent $1 million on this losing legal battle in 1 year alone. North Yuba spends the majority of its funds on legal fees and salaries, and it spends a measly 4% of its entire budget maintaining the district infrastructure. Are these priorities Yuba Water Agency wants to be seen to support? Does Yuba Water Agency want to continue to throw money down the drain that is North Yuba, which is likely the most fiscally irresponsible water district in the region? North Yuba has won grants. In 2017, North Yuba was awarded a $500,000 grant from the state, only to leave $160,000 in the kitty through mismanagement. I was a researcher working on government grants, and the cardinal rule is to be sure to manage your time and your services to use all the money before the deadline expires. North Yuba didn't do that. The GM let the grant expire and then came running to Yuba Water Agency to ask for the money, which it received. And in 2019, North Yuba was awarded a $75,000 matching grant. North Yuba spent $75,000, but then couldn't apparently complete the administrative process of filling in forms to actually be awarded the matching $75,000 grant. You don't reward fiscal irresponsibility with more money. You can't fix incompetence by throwing more money at it. Every time North Yuba screws up, it runs to the Yuba Water Agency to beg for money, and the Yuba Water Agency gives it to them. And it's time to stop the madness. North Yuba Water District does not do its job. Its job is maintain infrastructure and deliver water. It doesn't do it, and it is going to sell
We've
our
gone
water.
beyond the 3 minutes. Can you wrap it up? Can you wrap it up?
Yes, I am urging the Yuba Water Agency directors to seriously consider their positions in the community and to not vote to provide this money, because even though it is a study, the goal of the study is to sell our water.
Okay, thank you very much.
And you will be seen as supporting selling our water.
All right.
If Crystal's still on the line, if I can ask her a couple of questions.
Yep, I'm here.
So are they spending $1 million in legal fees a year?
I don't know what the cost of legal fees are annually
Okay.
for North Yuba Water District this year.
All right, and do they have $4 million in reserve?
I do not know what the current reserve is.
Okay.
Either.
And as far as water marketing, in drought years, there would not be a sale of water. It would only be in, I assume, water surplus years, or no, there would be water sales regardless in both drought and surplus years.
So the positive part of North Yuba Water District is they do not have a water quantity problem. They have the water that they need. They have a water conveyance problem, which is what we've been talking about with piping the Forbes-Town ditch, is how do we get the water that we have and then get it effectively out to all of the customers. Piping the ditch will help along that process. So what we're looking at now with this study in particular is it's a baseline of where are we at right now, what conservation methods have already been put in, and then what, as we see things move forward, we're currently piping a piece of Orleva Creek. Once we get onto the larger Forbes-Town Ditch project, how can we then see further water conservation so that we can prove that the water is being used, the water right that they have is being used, and that we're down to acceptable losses. That is all this study is for.
Thank you.
All right. Any further questions from the board? Any further questions from the public? Bring it back to the board.
Yes.
Do we have a motion? No. Oh.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Charlie and I.
Okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
Opposed?
There was an additional comment from the public. I believe Donna Corson was trying to speak.
I didn't see any others this floor. I saw someone in the chat. That was you.
Yeah, she's on her phone. I don't know if that, she may be having trouble with her phone.
Well, they're having trouble with their phone. That
Should there actually be a roll call though?
It's not necessarily. If you, Mr. Chair, would like to entertain a roll call vote, that's okay, but we haven't been doing a roll call vote.
I didn't hear that.
It's
It was
4-2.
me and you, and it was 4-2.
Okay.
Did someone abstain? That was my question.
No.
No.
5-2 then.
Sorry, I
5-2.
can't count.
I'll vote no.
Private California schools.
I'll vote no.
Director,
Charlie, you were the motion.
I understand that.
4-3.
very good. So just so we're clear, Directors Fuhrer, Director Blazer, and Director
Right,
Matthews voted no. Okay,
So,
thanks for
all
the
right.
clarification. Motion passes 4-3.
okay. All right. Motion passes 4-3. All right. Now we're going to take item 6. Is that
Item number 5 for the
or
city of
5?
Wheatland.
I'm sorry. Get lost here. All right.
Hello.
5, consider request from City of Wheatland for a loan of $350,000 for the construction of a community pool.
Okay. Thank you. All right, so I'm here today. To share that we brought this grant request separate from the grants that you've considered for the September grant period because this request is a bit different, and for 2 reasons. So first, the request is for a loan and funding for water safe activities not starting until at least 2023, 24. Second, the request is in effect the local share of a Prop 68 grant that the city of Wheatland is requesting. This grant could be contingent upon the city being awarded the Prop 68 grant. So I want to share a little, the city of Wheatland has been developing plans for a community aquatic center for the South Yuba County. This effort has been collaborated efforts of many partners, including the Wheatland School District, Wheatland Union High School, Wheatland Fire Authority, letters of support from Yuba River Endowment Foundation, and the Adventist-Rideout, and I think some of you have heard of the Blue Zone project. The Aquatic Center will provide a new site for swim lessons and practice, recreational amenities, and a competitive pool complex for water sports, including swimming, diving, and water polo. So as you know, Yuba County is home to multiple rivers, streams, canals, and lakes. Swim lessons are an essential aspect of water safety in our county. The Wheatland Aquatic Center will play a key role in ensuring children in the region have access to swim lessons and ample opportunities to improve those swimming skills. And the site also will be used for training public safety personnel. So the current cost projection for the project is $4.35 million for phase 1. And that includes $1 million donation from a community member, Prop 68 grant for $3 million, and Yuba Water loan of $350,000. That would fill the local share. So Wheatland is asking Yuba Water to loan the city this gap money on a long-term 20-year loan payment deferred for the first 10 years. The principal and interest set at the Yuba County Treasurer's investment rate at year 10 will then be paid over the, there's that word, 10 years. So in addition, Wheatland is asking Yuba Water Agency for the commitment of $65,000 per year for 10 years with 2 possible 10-year extensions of the agreement. This funding will cover the cost of water safety education programs for Yuba County students, adults, and will fund water safety and rescue training for the responding agencies. And with us today is the city manager from Wheatland, Mr. Jim Goodwin, and he's here to answer any questions.
Before you leave, do we supplement or subsidize water safety for the Olivehurst pool for $65,000 a year?
No, we do not.
Through the chair, Yuba Water Agency does not, but Yuba County does.
Thank you.
Any further questions?
I don't know. And just to clarify, I do not know the amount. I just know that Yuba County does, and First Five do subsidize the programs at the Olivehurst pool.
Okay. Any further questions from the board?
There will be.
Yes.
All right. Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman, board members. We are excited with the opportunity to be before you today. We appreciate the consideration 2 weeks ago from the pod committee, going through details of the project and making a positive recommendation. Jackie has done an excellent job actually giving you the details of the project. I'd just like to emphasize really three things. One is safety. Yes, there are other pools in the region, and this aquatic center will do nothing but enhance the opportunity to provide training for children in the region in terms of swim lessons, but also then skill practice with competitive swimming, which does not exist in the South County at this time, as well as then opportunities for water training for public safety. We already have a commitment from Wheatland Fire Authority to want to use the facility for that purpose. And so we see that opportunity as key. Second thing I just want to emphasize is collaboration. This project has come together with a tremendous amount of collaboration from multiple agencies, multiple partners who want to see the project go forward. It is the first phase of what will be ultimately, as the community grows and the South County grows, a much larger facility. So this is phase one of what could be 3 phases that would really bring the project ultimately to a scale similar to Gaucher Park in Yuba City. That's a vision for the future. Certainly no desire to try to attack that now. That would be premature. And then really the final thing is a question of timing. The city really moved along this path because we had a donor step forward with a very generous gift of $1 million to the community, but with the timeline. We were given 7 years to move forward and put a pool in the ground, or the gift could be rescinded by the estate. And so that's one issue. Prop 68, the current park bond, specifically has provided a program, the Rural Recreation Tourism Program, that targets rural areas and specifies aquatic facilities in the NOFA. And so that opportunity is right now, and that opportunity will go away after now January 22nd, which is the deadline for that. And so really that is why we're here. That's why the project is on the timeline that it is because we have the opportunity to leverage $4 million between a gift and a state grant, and we'll lose that opportunity if we don't act on it. And then there's an opportunity for this project to grow with South Yuba County into the future. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any additional questions that you would have.
Any questions from the board?
Through the chair. So Jim, I really like the project and I like the concept of it. I think it's a real asset to Yuba County and of course Wheatland in economic assistance to our community. Has a lot of facets to it. I like the fact that there are multiple players in all of this. A couple of concerns that come to the table is aquatic centers tend to be not-profit centers. They're a service for the public. Within your request is that we write into it a clause that would be forgiveness at the end of it if needed. I would encourage that you have to build this to be neutral in dollars. I don't think we can set up a precedent that says any loan can be written off as a grant. we're really not geared for that, nor this project as a grant. That's why it's a loan. So having said all of that, again, very much in favor. I would make the motion to approve this, but not with any clause that is any forgiveness. It must be written and presented as a loan with a plan that actually comes with a payment somewhere down the line. And you have multiple years to come up with that program. So that would be my encouragement, and that would be my motion.
Okay,
I'll second.
we have a motion and a second. Any further comments from the board?
I also just had a quick comment. Wanted to say I appreciate the collaboration. I think this is a great project. I know one of the things this board is looking to accomplish, it's one of our strategic goals, is economic development. And, you know, I think that particularly the loan piece of, the request and getting this pool constructed is an important component of that. It creates amenities in the community. In addition to that, it creates much needed extracurricular activities in the community and specifically at the schools. I know one of the challenges we have, certainly in the south part of the county, possibly in other parts of the county as well, are students leaving Yuba County schools who live here and they get educated elsewhere, they move elsewhere because our schools don't necessarily have the programs that they want. And that is both academic and extracurricular. And so being able to have water sports programs through the schools is important to keeping those residents here, keeping those kids in our schools, and continuing to grow and improve Yuba County. So thank you.
Any further questions, board? Yes.
So I like the program. I would just know that all of First Pool has been closed for the last few years because they did not have funds to operate. And so I would look forward to us offering them $65,000 a year for their water safety courses as well.
Okay.
Through the chair.
Yes.
Yeah, a couple things. Seth, I totally agree with you on this one. I think this opens up. I mean, the reality is Marysville and all of us ought to be here the next grant writing and ask for that money. And I don't think we're going to be able to say no. I mean, this kind of looks like we're giving a loan of $65,000 a year and then giving them the 10 years to pay it off. And we're giving them the money to pay their own loan off, which I'm not criticizing. I just think it's an interesting way to do it. My bank has not offered me that yet. I'm confused. This is a weird concern, but I just want to bring it up. I'm going to vote for it. I think it's fine. I mean, it's got, I've told you before, I have a house in Pinedale. They have an aquatic center that I love to go to. So I think this is a great program. Here's, I think, a challenge that we have to think about in government. We were given $1 million with 7 years to spend it. And we're going to spend $4.5 million of government money because somebody gave us money. And I think that's something we have to be concerned about. Because if we start getting people to leave us money, are we going to be forced to spend millions more because we're afraid to lose that sunk cost? And I think that's a concern I have. I mean, I really do think guided scholarships sometimes are so guided that they don't get used, and without spending a bunch of other money to go with it. And so I appreciate the gift from the Wheatland residents. I mean, it is unbelievable to do that. But it's also, just think about, because of that, we're looking to spend another $3.5 million of government money because it's not our money, because he gave it. And so I just want us to think about that process of when we're given some, this is not, it's a gift, but the reality is it's costing us a fortune to receive this gift. And so I just think that's something we need to think about as this happens, because this could happen more. And so just something to think about.
Okay.
Can I make a quick comment? Because I really appreciate what you're saying, and our council had to wrestle with that very issue. I would actually flip it and say that there is $3 million in state money that will go to some rural community in the state of California, but the $1 million actually makes it possible for us to secure that $3 million.
Not disagreeing. It's all government money, though.
Exactly. You're right. I don't argue with that.
The final outlook is that the city of Wheatland has a pool, and that is the purpose of leveraging money.
Totally agree. I'm not disagreeing with the process. I'm not disagreeing with voting for it. I'm just saying, I just wanted to share that process.
We have a motion and a second, I think. And All those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? It's quiet.
Thank you very much.
All right. Item 6 is receive and file a presentation on the master plan for the Water Education Center on the Yuba River. Okay.
Through the chair, can we do Yuba College so we can wrap up the grant items so that they can go on their way, or no?
Yeah.
Oh, hold on. So I
No,
thought the
I
intent was
wanted
to,
to-
that's why we delayed it, is to have this presentation. And then
Okay.
I'm happy to do it either way. I just wanted to clarify that was the
right.
request.
Okay, well, that's fine. Go ahead.
They're seeing, right? Felt a little left out in all those conversations. I wanted to jump in, and finally I get a chance. So here we go. So we're talking about the Watershed Experience Center and DLR's master plan, but I wanted to give a little introduction and background on how we got here. In particular, because this has been a couple-year process, and because we have a few new board members that I think we owe an explanation of, the process that we went through to get here. Okay, so first off, I just wanted to show the agency's vision. This is not the water education vision. This is the agency's vision. Our new vision: a prosperous and thriving Yuba County and elevated quality of life for residents achieved through strategic water resource management and community investment. That's the agency's overarching vision. So our beginning, this is the Water Experience Center's beginning. So it all started with a trip to the Sonoma Water Education Center. I believe Brent went to a conference there a few years ago and said, hey, they did this really cool thing. They've got this really great education program and center on the river. Maybe we should think about doing something very similar. So we started an advisory committee. We got together, we brainstormed about things, and we included local educators and the Yuba River Endowment in that advisory committee. And in April of 2020, we approved the contract with DLR for the master plan, along with our curriculum program that we've already presented on. So that's what you're going to see today, is you're going to see the master plan that was developed by DLR. So in May of 2020, the board adopted the water education policy statement. I'll read it here. To enhance the educational experience and improve the quality of life for all Yuba County residents, Yuba Water Agency is developing a water education program. This includes developing programming and curriculum for all ages, as well as field trips and hands-on education opportunities focused on enabling residents to learn about, explore, and develop an appreciation for the history and missions of the agency and the Yuba River watershed. This initiative also includes plans to build a water education center for experiential learning for students and the general public. And in April of this year, the board approved the water education program goals. These are more specific. Improve quality of life and economic prosperity for the residents of Yuba County through supporting equitable education opportunities. And this supports the Yuba Water Agency's strategic plan. Number 2, promote stewardship by helping residents and visitors develop an increased understanding of and stronger sense of connection with Yuba County's water and natural resources while gaining more knowledge of Yuba Water's mission and programs. Also supports the strategic plan. 3, improve residents and visitors' awareness of Yuba County as an excellent place to live and visit, and also supporting the strategic plan. So I think it was the fall of last year, October of last year, we had a visioning session about the Water Education Center itself, and we included a link to the recording of that session in the agenda, but I wanted to pull out and talk about some of the quotes that we got from the board members that helped develop this plan. So from Director Hasty, a world-class facility with the capability of giving education to people from kindergarten to doctorate. Dream big, design big, and build as we can afford it. Director Bradford. 2 co-equal goals: to improve the educational outcomes for Yuba County students, essentially help lift up those in Yuba County, An equally important goal is to increase tourism in Yuba County. I want people from 2-3 hours away to plan day trips to our water education center. Again, Director Bradford. My real hope is that 50 years from now, people will say the Water Education Center on water education in Yuba County is world-class. Director Hasty. We need to have a state-of-the-art facility. We also need to have the classroom, the presentation room, the meeting center. Former Director Leahy. Phased-in approach. Phase it in as we can make this thing grow. Former Director Lofton. Real hands-on experience outdoors that becomes a highlight throughout the state of California and beyond. A place where we are proud to invite senators and congressmen and the public and our kindergartners. Director Fletcher. I think we need to have a little gift shop in there. Former Director Leahy. Not only do we want to have the schools participate, but we want to be interesting enough that we're able to compete with something like that pumpkin farm. Director Matthews. A 5-year success story would be that we have a traffic jam on Highway 20 with people turning into the center. Director Matthews. 5 years from now, I see Doug Lofton as a volunteer docent at the Education Center, helping to educate and inspire our youth in Yuba County. Former Director Lofton. I see that we will have so many people will have to fix a traffic problem, but it's well worth it. Director Fletcher. That's just a flavor of what we went through in the visioning session. So we ended up choosing the Hamon Grove site. We went through a major process in choosing that. I think it was earlier this year. We formally brought to the board our analysis presentation and the attributes we weighed in balancing 6 different sites, and the board voted to seek the Hamon Grove site as the site for the Water Education Center. I will explain that the Yuba River property ranked higher based on the attributes that we went through in this analysis, but we had unsuccessful efforts in negotiating a purchase of that property with the landowner. So that caused us to take a deeper dive and really analyze just both of those properties side by side. And we actually came away with that with the Hamon Grove Park site as the best site. And here's a few reasons why. It has incredible river access, salmon spawning location, and the natural environment. Willing partners in the Bureau of Land Management in Yuba County. It's currently under BLM ownership, and they have said that they would gift the land to Yuba County. Many millions of dollars of Caltrans funded road and bridge improvements are taking place on that section of Highway 20 to make the ingress and egress better. But I think most importantly, we landed on this item, keeping public assets grouped together and ensuring that private land can remain on the county's tax rolls. So this Hamon Grove site is right adjacent to the Sycamore Ranch property that is currently owned by the county. So this would just expand the county government's land holdings, and it wouldn't take away the private property that's owned by Yuba River Properties. So we formally landed on the Hamon Grove site. And you'll see in DLR's presentation, a phased approach. So they have this master plan. It is not specific engineering and design. It's not specific architecture. It's a master plan where they went out and talked to people in the community. They touched base with the tribes, that touched base with others. They looked at the habitat that's provided on this property, both in the river and on the site, and how that something could be designed there by blending into the natural community and not impacting the natural community. So that was the process here. You're not going to see specific engineering proposals. This is a global master plan, but you will see a conceptual phased approach. I believe there's 5 phases, and this could be implemented where each phase has an incremental benefit. So phase 1 could be designed such that there's access roads, parking, bathrooms, a building, in infrastructure, and it could provide a benefit. It could provide a building where students could go learn. It could be like a multi-purpose type classroom with bathrooms and just your basic facilities. Any subsequent phase would have another incremental benefit. So that's the concept you're going to hear from DLR. I just wanted to provide the background and provide a little introduction to DLR. So I'm going to hand it over to Mark. I may need your help.
Good morning. I'm Mark Covington with DLR Group, Mr. Chair, Directors. It's going to be hard to follow Willie on that. He did a great job of giving you the information that got us here today. And also what I would like to share with you is the main questions that I believe a community will ask is like, well, who did you talk to? And what did you come up with? And that's what we're here to present to you this morning. This is a visioning and a master planning process. As Willie said, 2 years ago, we were hired to support the Yuba Water Agency in coming up with this vision and master plan of what could be for a watershed experience center, education center, excuse me. So we want to walk through a path to that vision. And this is the part that I said, like, who is involved? As Willie has already shared with you, obviously you, the board, was involved, staff, facilities committee. I'm not going to read all the way down down this because I know you all have it on your screen, but we reached out to multiple people in your community to gather information and to bring it into a visioning and master plan. And the 2 paragraphs at the bottom, Willie just eloquently shared that this is a part of your vision. This is a part of your priorities. This is a part of the vision of the water agency. So to create the vibrant and connected communities, the Watershed Experience Center must equitably celebrate, represent, and provide resources to the diverse cultures and communities it serves. When experiencing the center, people of all abilities will have the same experience. Our design needs to factor in different elements to help everyone thrive and feel welcome at the Yuba Watershed Experience Center. Once again, who was involved? What did we find? Well, what did we do to get information? So we've done equitable roundtables. We've looked at the history of the gold rush. We've done virtual tours, which I'll show you in a little bit, of 5 different facilities around the country. And I'll back up to that because I know a couple of you were part of the facilities committee when we did this, and we talked about how we were going to do this approach. We planned trips to go to specific other facilities around the country. And then, of course, the pandemic hit, and that actually helped us. We were able to get more people plugged in and get onto Zoom calls and go to Boise and have somebody literally walk through the whole center with us with a camera, answering questions. Doherty Education Center in Omaha, Cedar River Watershed up in Washington. So we were able to gather an enormous amount of information from other agencies such as yourself that has done the very same thing, that has the very same type of vision that you do. Excuse me. Throughout all of this, I'll go to the last couple of bullets. We've done a phasing study and we've had multiple meetings with staff. All of this is currently on your website, this information, and available to the public. And it's through the Yuba Watershed Experience Center webpage. And if you go to the bottom part of the master planning process, you can click on follow the process. Also in this report, I'm going to take you to that real quick. And I hope that it shares for everybody on Zoom as well. So this is what we call as our web page, and it's called a Padlet. And what this does is helps us share your vision to your community and how we walk through this. Now it reads like a book, left to right. So as you start out, the Yuba Watershed Experience Center begins when you came to us. Any individual can click on these and they'll open up. And as you read down, you can read who was a part of that. You can read all sorts of information. I'm just staying here on the left side. Now, as I go to the right, I'm not going to go through all this with you, of course, because it's so much. You can see the types of information we have gathered. I always love this, which W.T. Ellis Jr. shared out. They always watch the tricky Yuba. I think that's been a very common theme as we've looked at the site, the Hamon Grove site that Willie has shared with you as well. And as we go through this, you'll see that there was the board. Go this way so I don't go too fast. Okay, it's behind. It's working that way. Left, maybe? No, can't touch it. Now I'm trying to get to the bar. It's not working for me. And it's not going. I'm trying to go right. I'm going to go arrow key. Nope, not working. What I really wanted to get to was to the right. I'm not sure. Oh, down here. There we go. Thank you. So you'll see here's the site evaluation that we use, as Willie was making reference to, as we went through the multiple sites, 6 different sites. We've got GIS maps. We've done all sorts of assessments within 30-minute drives. We looked at the campgrounds within 2 hours. We've done indoor space programming, a visioning discussion that we had. But I really want to come over here and just show something that we found very fascinating. Here's the 5 case studies of the virtual tours. You can click on each one of these and look at the PDF files of each one of them, or you can actually click on it and watch the Zoom if you want, and walk through it yourself. This allows your community, allows you to walk through this and experience the same thing we've been experiencing throughout the whole time for the past couple of years. And as I get over here to the Hamon Grove site, I just want to click on this, sort of show you some interesting information that we discovered on how the tricky Yuba moves. And this is a site context with the Hamon Grove site. As you start to scroll down this, we look back at all the different places that the river has been in flux over the years. And when you read, it's hard to read on the bottom here, pre-1850, the river was way out away from our site, away from this site. In 1911, starts moving that direction. 1947, moving that direction. Of course, with the dredgings and such, and during the gold rush, 1973 completely moved it over here. And then up to 2018, it's right in front of the site, the Hamon Grove site, which is over off of Highway 20. And oh goodness, Sycamore Park, right? Is that what it's called? Yeah, thank you, Sycamore Ranch, thank you. So very interesting information. Of course, we cut cross section through it, looking at it and seeing how the active dredging has caused this river to be in flux. We've taken a look at the waterways and access to the waterways of this site itself, and how the embankments can erode away. And we look at there's a closed landfill on the site. We're looking at different views that we can take opportunities with. We've looked at different vegetation on the site. Here's a bunch of photos that show we have a mixed hardwood forest at the backside with a riparian forest at the front. We also know that there's fire challenges with the site, where the winds come from the south and the prevailing winds come from the south. The sun exposure, obviously from east and west, it can be some dry slopes. So we've done those exhaustive studies as well. Looked at how the river and possible river trails and what the whole condition is right along the front side of this site. You can kind of go through this and see the different types of information just in this one spot. I constantly go back to is the tricky Yuba. And then we show on the seasonal change of the Yuba, where we're going from January through the year. You can see the times when the steelhead are running, the salmon run. This is at the site when the wildflowers are growing, the grasses, evergreen, and on down. How you can, it's easy to just see as the Yuba River flows and is high, the fire danger is low. And here's your fire risk is high when the river is low. So these sort of things are what a person can experience as they go through this. And if you continue to go clear to the right, you'll get to where we are today. And that's where I'll jump back into today's board presentation. But this is a very useful tool and is available on your website at this time. So coming back to our presentation, what we've also discovered, collecting information from your community, from tribes, from everybody who has had their hand in this and giving us information, we've came up with these key design principles for the facility, where it's immersive. I'll just start at 3 o'clock, where it's immersive in nature, hands-on experience, light touch on the land that it would be on. It's water play and recreation is available. There's a balance of access and separation, and the general community has a gathering location. And there's also subcategories to each of these as well. This is a sample of how we came from the Hamon Grove site to the Yuba River site that Willie had just shared earlier, and all the information he shared with you, looking at a 47-acre BLM property compared to a 300-acre private land. Once again, that's a shot of what we discovered. This is where I was actually supposed to take you and run through that with you. We've also looked at these species. I think it's covered up top, but I don't know. But what we've discovered is that there are species that we didn't do an EIR on this, but we did determine that there are species that are indigenous to the area that could be on this property. You'll see our study shows which ones are potentially endangered, which ones are potentially threatened out there. So that's once again why we get to this light touch on the property. Looking at the light touch on the property, we came to our groups in discussion and talked about ideas of what that looks like. How can we create something that meets your vision and also integrates into or immerses itself into the environment that it sets in and becomes a sustainable type of approach that creates a light touch. So we take all those ideas of a vision and we start to turn them into a plan. We act on what we discovered. So this is the site. If you're familiar with it, I know that there's been a couple of you that have been out there, at least when I was out there as well. We've also held a community meeting out there, and I know there were a couple or maybe one director that was out there. But when you look at this site, there's a lot of erosion that has occurred over the years, possibly even from the gold rush. Not quite sure. There's mining been on here. You'll see in the lower picture, when we look at this as architects and landscape architects, we see an oak tree threatened, because this root structure is about to be washed away or about to settle and fall over. So when we look at this, we see this with mature oaks and the little valleys that's being created. We see them as actually building opportunities. So this is sort of a cutaway section and an elevation of an idea that we could do on the property. And that is in these large rectangular areas to take those and have building opportunities where we could actually shore up behind an oak tree or near an oak tree, backfill against a building or backfill on a wall, and save and help preserve, if you will, the surroundings that are on that site. So we look at these and consider these to be building opportunities. Once again, we're not doing a lot to the site. It's actually light touching the site. When you look at it in a full plan, I showed you that we've done a study of the trees. We've done a study of the area around there. We've got that landfill that just sits right dead center on the property. We've also talked to the county a little bit more, and we're gathering more information on that, but it's not a substantial landfill. It's just an old dump is what we understand. So there's no buildings. We have no plan for that landfill. If we are allowed to do something on it later, we'll cross that bridge. But we'll cross it with you, obviously. So we look at each one of those spaces in between trees, in between gullies, around a dry meadow, to where we can restore and stabilize slopes as a building opportunity. And what that does is turns into an overall master plan. Now that gets a little small because we're trying to show the whole site. So this is an overall master plan where we can take and strategically place buildings in opportune areas, immerse them into nature, utilize what the site has given us, and be able to cost effectively build on this existing site. And we'll come through all of this throughout the whole, all of these buildings that are on here are not huge buildings. They're roughly, some of them are only 1,900 square feet, 3,000 square feet. We show a small theater in there for a learning area as well. That's maybe 3,500 to 4,000 square feet. So we're not walking onto the site and proposing, because based on the vision, we're not proposing to come in there and bulldoze half the site and drop this huge facility on it. We're proposing to be strategic through our phasing. I think from there, I want to pull up our landscape architect, Eric Prince from Atlas Lab, and he's just going to talk a little bit about how we bring the form to vision and what this looks like on these codes.
Yeah, thank you all. So the site is a really remarkable site. It's unique. I think it's a world-class site as it is. So the idea of integrating the buildings and integrating access into that site is first and foremost a really exciting opportunity. This is a cutaway section that shows the section north of the Yuba River, the Yuba River to the right. And so we really are orienting access for educational facilities, and so that you can get access to the river perpendicular to the river. And so there's a lot of opportunities that as water falls on this site, from the uplands down to the water, the students and educators can actually parallel that experience to see how water can be improved, the water quality can be improved as you move down to the water. We actually think that there can be improved water quality through increased permeability in the soil, through filtration of the soil, to reduce sedimentation and erosion that does go down to the river to improve the salmon habitat. So we think this restorative approach to the setter will help actually improve habitat and water quality. And then that parallel to that track is the students experiencing that improved water quality relationship of the land to the water quality of the watershed itself. And then let's see. And so this is a kind of enlargement of some of those areas as waterfalls, particularly through seasonal rains like we're having now, for students to see the water quality, for the capture of that and the improved water quality of allowing that sediment to settle before it then reaches the Yuba, and throughout that way, engaging the students with the land, reusing some of the cobble material that's been excavated in the area to reorient walls and to provide outdoor classrooms. So throughout the experience is really hands-on educational opportunities engaged with the landscape and with the water throughout.
So I really like the idea that we can immerse education into the natural environment of an education center and serve the community with opportunity to just to soak it in. As I was sharing out the building opportunities with you earlier, you know, this is a possibility that we could grab cobble and tailings and create small walls and then cut out areas for learning and experiencing the watershed and the Yuba itself. So, like Willie said, this is a vision. This is a master plan. There's no engineering. There's no hard design to this. These are all ideas. So as you saw from the master plan, I'm going to go backwards just a little bit to kind of walk you through this. Maybe do it with my mouse. The objective would be to come in from Highway 20, but then come in right after you come past the small bathrooms that are down below here in the park. Come right up the hill. And your entrance to the site would be away from where the county is currently using, where people come down and fish and have river, rafting access and access to the water down here. We're proposing that you would come up to the top of the site and start to experience this from the top down. That would look like this welcome center. As you get to the top, you would have this welcome center. It's open. You're going to look through this. You're going to look out over the Yuba. You're going to look across at all the tailings out over in the where Tykert is across the way. That's how this starts to play out. Notice again, they're just small buildings. It's a drop-off area, and this is where an individual would start their experience. Looking back up the hill from down inside. So this is sort of an open bowl that's in the middle that the community can use. And the theater, small theater would be off to the right over here, but this is looking back up at that welcome center. So now you're down in the middle of the hill, looking back at all of it. This is over here is saving the landfill area, not doing any work on it. When you get further down into the site, you really begin to immerse yourself into the oaks and immerse yourself into getting the experience of the Yuba River, and then starting to learn more about the watershed itself. There's opportunities for different cultures to do teachings and dances down below here, and also opportunities for the community to just experience the nature that this is offering. Towards the bottom of the site, we're proposing that it's a great opportunity for an amphitheater style area that's open. Once again, some cultural dances we've learned from the different tribes and different everybody, Punjabi, there was a Filipino heritage that was with us when we helped develop and get information for this. They have different types of colorful arts and things that they do in their community, and the river it speaks to them, and they've grown over the years with the river. So the river is the backdrop on this, as you can start to do these sort of art experiences. Leaving from there comes down to another exhibit hall, a little exhibit place that's also right next to the river. So you experience the river, and I got this from Jeff Matthews with the water agency, as he would stand there on the side and point out, say there's a big riparian area over there where a bunch of insects come out and all the salmon come up here and spawn, and you literally get to experience that right off this specific area of the site. So that's sort of how we bring the form to vision. There's an aerial of what that could look like. Once again, getting those buildings to fit into nature and not come in and be destructive to nature. So when we come to this, Willie has already shared with you, it's a phased approach. We're calling it a palatable approach. So looking at 4 different phases of this, just to familiarize yourself with this map, here's the coming into the top up in this area and working down The first phase would be starting at the bottom, considering a small welcome center with some restrooms and some trails. I keep backing up because I have to pull the mouse out. But this here would look like something that you could possibly do out in 2 to 3 years. Access roads, having a bus loop. You're going to have utilities into the site, whether that be wells, septic systems, fire protection, that will have to be out there as well. Large, usually CAL FIRE or whomever else, the county may require some large water storage tanks for fire protection. An interim welcome center with restrooms and experiential walk paths, as we've showed you through the graphic images, and of course the grading and landscaping that is associated with all of it. And we put a price tag out 2 to 3 years with escalation of about $15 million. Phase 2 would then bring us in up to the welcome center at the top of the hill. And then also start to put in some additional paths, increase your utilities, increase the fire protection, expand on the septic system, build that final welcome center up top, and then take the welcome center down below and turn it into an exhibit space. Build more exhibit spaces in the amphitheater. This is a 5-year out ahead look at a possibility. That could be $33 million. And then moving out to 10 years, a third phase with an exhibit hall, building an administration building, K-5 education buildings, fire water storage, of course, increasing your underground piping, getting all that more infrastructure in, and then getting more landscape and experiential walk paths put in. And a fourth and final phase, potentially 15 years out, finish off the education center, grades 6 through 12, and also finish off a higher education center. Get an event venue and dining area. There's been lots of talk about that. Theater and some cabins potentially, and also finish off the landscape and irrigation. And that's $48 million at 15 years out. So what that looks like overall, because those numbers add up fast, is a what we call that palatable approach, or what Willie shared. It's a phased approach. It allows you to get the community interested early. You could also even use the first phase to get also local businesses interested in supporting the education center. So we proposed that it comes out to a four-phased plan over a 15-year period. You'll see that, and I'm pretty sure everybody understands what annual escalation is. We're only showing 3-year escalation right now for Yuba County. Our offices in Sacramento County, we're pushing about 4% escalation. One of our other offices in San Francisco is 6 to 8% per year escalation. So we anticipate that. So you look at each one of these numbers and you can see when we get way out there 15 years, we've got $17 million of escalation. That's the difference in construction between now and then. I think that was it. Leave it open to the board for discussion.
Thank you very much. That's a very well put together presentation. You've changed my mind a lot. I was less than thrilled at the beginning of this, but it's a lot of vision in there. Yes. Any comments from the board?
On the soft cost of 25%, is that the operations cost?
Soft cost is going to be everything. So there's hard costs and soft costs. Hard costs is your construction. Soft cost is going to be the fees that are on top of it, architect's fees, any kind of fees you may have for the county, EIR, if you have to do some all those other things that do not literally build something, it's a soft cost. Legal fees are included, in my head.
So in addition to the 120 million, what would the operations cost be?
I'm unsure of what that answer is. So
okay,
that may be something that.
And then as far as the like geography of it all, the landfill area will never be able to be used, or is that what's potential possibilities for that in the future?
There's a potential possibility in this scheme is a parking facility to be able to come down to that. It depends on how much the county is going to utilize the second entrance down at the bottom. That's why we say we would come up top with a different entrance, and how the county utilizes that, and then how many You know, when we go back to the visions that was first brought out, that Willie brought out earlier, right? The vision is to have people wait 3 hours to get there, you know, drive in there. So we're hoping to get people to get to this place. So at some point in time, if we needed to expand parking, that would be the optimum location.
So after phase 4, what would the capacity be? Is it 1,000 people that it would be seen a day?
Oh, we're looking at close to 700 or a day. A day is, yes, I think we were looking at, no, it's 400, sorry.
400 a day?
Yep.
Okay. And then the river moving was very interesting every couple decades. That is no longer an issue?
Right now, you notice on the plans, we hold back from the river. It still is an issue, but as we've done some site visits, it's quite interesting that along the southeastern portion of the site, it's bedrock. It's hard, and the river has washed away the debris, the dirt on top, obviously, the topsoil. So yes, I think the river is stopping. This is my own personal opinion, because when you stand on the site and you look at 5 foot level, you look straight across the tailings all the way across. So it's physically impossible for that river to get up to 10 feet without it going 600 feet that way, you know, out across the tailings on the other side.
I might add that a lot of the facilities are a lot higher above that floodplain. So if you see, it's a little deceptive. There's areas that go down low and high. All the facilities that you see are really elevated, in our mind, pretty resilient. And then even the trails, we try to orient perpendicular so that facilities can kind of adapt with the river as it moves, if it does change, so that we're not running parallel as much, but having everything's kind of orient to the river more perpendicular, which allows more, I think, adaptability to that river. And also
I would have liked to have seen more parallel, but your reasoning for not and doing it perpendicular is because of the tricky Yuba. All right, got it. Thank you.
The tricky Yuba, yeah.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Could you expand a little bit more on how these other centers, how many people per day and access and the program we would have in phase 1?
Yes, off the top of my head, Director Matthews, no, I could not give you those numbers, but I'm confident that they're inside the webpage, and I could come back with you and give you an answer to that. But they're like, we're the architects for the Dorley Zoo and the facility that's in Omaha, and I believe that one's 1,200 people a day, and it's quite a large facility. The Boise Watershed was a pretty active facility as well. And those would be in the notes in the Padlet that we shared with you earlier.
And how about the Sonoma Center?
The Sonoma Center, I'm unsure of the number that goes through the Sonoma Center. I'm not sure it's quite as large.
So Director Matthews, you asked, the capacity for phase 1. And I just want to remind everyone that this is a concept, right? We have not designed a phase 1. This is to show you the scale of what could be built there and kind of a range of possibilities for a phase 1. But if the board had a target, like, hey, if we did do a phase 1, we'd like to target 50 students a day, then we could design it accordingly. So we don't have those numbers because we're just providing a concept at this point.
Through the chair. You know, in concept, this is fabulous. It's a long range, big vision. I love it. Makes a lot of sense. Really puts us on the map. There are 1 or 2 small concerns. This summer, we had a 3-day event at this same location that set off a firestorm of issues because of the neighbors that expanded up to several miles away, that they were, to say the least, pissed that we would even consider doing something like this. I guess one of the highlights I have to encourage you to do is make sure that the neighbors in a fairly large area are actually supportive. It's a battle that I don't really want to take on. If the community doesn't want and is willing to go to battle for this, then maybe we have the wrong location. To throw in the mix, and you've spent a lot of time and energy, and we've all spent time and thought process. In concept, I love it. In practicality, we actually have the potential for another location. Same type of concept, but maybe a different location, a little farther up the road, that I wouldn't want to throw out at this point. So just to think along those lines as we move forward. again, I am very supportive of this. I think it really puts Yuba County on the map. Please don't overlook our community. I'm more than happy to work with you in that realm of making sure we actually have support. But some of the things we're dealing with here could potentially throw a monkey wrench into it because we have people coming to an area. There's traffic, there's potential problems, there's fire issues, there's noise, there's, you name it, they'll come up with it. So just a thought as we move forward, but thank you for the presentation. I like the visual. I think it has a lot of really positives for the community.
Director Fletcher, I'd like to address your comments about the neighbors and the potential opposition. So during at least one of the field trips that I was on, we invited the neighbors there, and I won't use names, but probably one of the vocal neighbors that had concern with the issue that happened this summer did not express opposition to this and actually express support for this, because this is not a 3-day 24/7 concert. This is a normal business hours education facility. And there you go, I whittled it down to 50% of the population. She said that you'd get support from at least the neighbors that she has been spoken with. And I think she's a well-connected member of the community. Now, that's not speaking for all, and we didn't go 5 miles out like you just commented on. But at this point, I'm thinking that opposition was specific to that event, but more to come. So I would just like to close with saying, in April of 2020, staff got direction to work on the curriculum program, which we're almost complete with. We brought that to you for the final phase a few months ago, and for the master plan of a facility. And so at the conclusion of this presentation, we're nearly done with both of those tasks. And on the agenda item, it says, I think, Vic, it says discuss and recommend or something like that, next steps. So we're not asking for an action from the board, but if you guys would like to discuss what now to do, that would be great. If you want to give us direction on what to bring back, if anything, now would be the time for discussion. And I'm happy to answer questions about, what could be done or whatever you'd like to discuss.
I don't think you'll have the Woodstock type crowd there. And I think this is a plus for our entire community. And it's close enough you can get some of the kids from Marysville. That was my concern, is an hour-and-a-half bus trip is not good. This is a great location. Are we getting a consensus?
Through the chair, great presentation. Thank you, loved it. Looks amazing. I don't want to wait 15 years, but I know that's it'll be what it'll be. And I think it's smart to phase it. And, from the quote that was shared from me earlier, right? Dream big, build it as we can afford it. And so, I want to do what we need to do to get started on phase 1. So to have staff bring back whatever items that would be for the board to consider to continue moving phase 1 forward. If, the board wants to see that brought before us, I'd certainly want to support that.
We have a consensus from the board. Yes.
Yeah, I want to speak about this one. First off, I'm just in awe of the project and how you did it. From the starting process to here, wow, big steps. And it is absolutely a world-class dream. And I want to thank the board for the support to this point. One of the things I'm most proud about that you talked about was I'm pretty confident we have never had this much collaboration with so many different groups than we've ever had on a project in Yuba County. And so, and I don't have anybody opposed to it. All the groups are pretty much supportive. Everybody's excited about their part. I'm just in awe, and I'm really, really proud of it. And I would agree with Gary. I would like to see us have staff bring back what it takes for phase 1. And I'd also, and maybe this is a better way to do it, but I know we have talked about having our retreat of the board so that we can actually have a day of talking about strategic planning and all that. And it's clear that I think that, I want you to bring back phase 1, but I would have I'd actually be supportive of if we had that retreat day, that one of those items would be in our strategic, what is this? And what does, what do we think of phase 1? I would love to have you say, here's your check for $15 million and let's get started. But I don't want to give them, I think that's too much to ask the board, and I think that we need to have that discussion. And Willie, I think you brought it up. I mean, do we want to serve 50 people a day? Do we want to serve 400 people a day? What do we want in that phase one? So I think we need to have that discussion. So I think that for me, I want to get phase one started, but I also want to have that discussion with the board at a time that we have plenty of time. We're not holding people up as we have that discussion, and have a full talk about it. And I really think that's vitally important for us, because I think that what we saw, and this is not, the board goes through, we have new members. And so they haven't had the discussions. You saw the quotes from the board members that have been around a while, and they were all pretty positive and excited. And I don't know how you go through this process without getting excited after watching this. But I do think that the full board deserves to have that kind of a discussion. And so I would encourage the staff to set up that meeting as soon as possible, and then have a day or a few hours that we can have that discussion. So thanks.
Jim, that meeting is December 15th?
December 15th is on your calendar, sure. And we do have a member of the public, just to remind them, Mr. Chair.
Just 2 more comments if I could.
Yeah.
On phase 2, you can do is phase 2 going to obsolete some of phase 1, where there would be where there would be wastes of funds because of the reformatting of the entrance and the parking and whatnot?
They would be redundant. So here again, this is a concept. We can build it however, but the concept would be phase 1 uses the existing road system, right? It would make more parking. It would make bathrooms and sewer and power and water and a building, right? However we design that. Phase 2 would be incrementally beneficial. So phase 2 would be a separate entrance, ingress and egress, that would add to the capacity of the total site. So it doesn't make obsolete phase 1, it just adds to phase 1.
Okay, and so
that's the concept, none of it's designed.
For sure. So we'd be moving the welcoming center from the phase 1 area to the phase 2 area. Right. That would be a minimal waste.
So what in concept, phase 1 would have just a multi-purpose room. It'd be a big room, like what if you'd been to Sonoma, you'd understand, but it's a big multi-purpose room with bathrooms and general facilities. So you would turn that into some type of other, use it for phase 1. Let's just say that's for 5 years. You would turn that into some type of science lab or something down the road, and then you'd make a more specific welcome center, and that would maybe be designed differently as a welcome center, where phase 1 is just a building that if the kids are out there studying and it starts to rain, they can go inside or be in the air conditioning, whatever.
All right, and then my secondary issue is that there is nothing in the budget currently for this, and so we would either have to wait 5 years when our dip from the building of the secondary spillway ends to start funding this. So it's 5 years out minimum, or we would have to change the secondary spillway funding to allow for this. Is that correct, guys?
You would have to adopt a budget that accommodates this, a future budget. So, I mean, we don't know where money would come from for the secondary spillway. We do a 2-year rolling budget edit anyway. So that would be a policy decision from the board on where to get the funding to build this. That would be one of the questions.
But I would be happy to support an approach where that any money that comes in support of the secondary spillway, if we get state money, that would automatically go to our education center. I'd be glad to support that stuff. Any federal or state dollars come in goes to the education. We take that out and put it to the education center. I'm all in.
All right. Well, it's been a long meeting here.
I have a quick comment.
Go ahead.
You don't mind. It's really great that you've done this project, and like you said, Willie, it's a concept, but it gives us some sort of framework and some sort of feeling for the potential total cost. Up till now, there's just been a lot of discussion. So it gives us something, a template to work on for future meetings and discussions, tweaking buildings or whatever, working with costs, but it gives us a really good start and concept and see where we'll go with it. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, that was the idea, to show you what the site could support and give you a range of options through the phasing approach. Exactly. And I mean, just to be honest, Brent's going to slap me for saying this, but phase 1 could be smaller. It could be picnic tables instead of a building, or it could be bigger. I mean, so those are the types of things I think Brent wants to talk about in a session where we spend a couple hours talking about what would be most beneficial.
And I guess my concern is that we build something that the people come to. The biggest fear is we spend money and it's not, it doesn't meet what we expect.
Yeah, and I think one of the foundational aspects of that, Director Matthews, is in parallel with the master planning design, we were working on the curriculum and developing relationships with the local teachers and the local educational leadership that, hey, we're building this curriculum and we're also in parallel working on a facility where you can teach this curriculum. So nothing is set in stone that says all of the curriculum is going to be taught at this new center by Yuba Water Agency, but the basic foundational relationships are being built. And if we do move forward with a phase one or whatever we do, we will continue to develop those relationships and develop plans and programs where that curriculum could be given at the facility and additional programs. I mean, there's other stuff that could be added on to this as well as we attract other partners.
When we do the planning, we'll have operational projections.
Yeah, and Seth, you did ask a question about long-term O&M costs. And so what you saw today was just, what we want to do is get a range of, this is the capital investment. Of course, there would be O&M on top of that. And once we have a specific ask on like, design phase one to look like this and support this many visitors per day or whatever parameters we put around it, then we can come back with, and it's going to cost you this much a year for operations and this much a year for maintenance.
All right. Any further comments from the board? All right. Any comments from all right, Charlie. Remember, it's timing.
I know, it's short. Charles Sharp, I have a comment. One is the traffic through Marysville. People are going to look at this and say, I have to wait 30 minutes to get through there. It's just something to think about. You know, that's an issue.
We've been thinking about that for 30
Yeah, I know.
You should take that to the county supervisor.
Well, there we go, right there.
So we could loan the spillway money to the county to have them build the Goldfields Parkway so the education center works.
Okay, one day it will flood. We will have a rain event forever, or a few days or whatever, and that river will, everything on that river will probably flood. Just something to keep in mind. There's going to have to be a civics class by Director Hasty, how to count to 3 and control your board. He has much experience with that. 4, 3 or 4, depending on, yeah, exactly, 3 or 4, okay? Whatever. He knows about it. And fire protection. Well, you got a river there. You just run a pipe in that river and put your fire hydrants all through there and pump it out, and you got more than enough water to put out the fires. You know, you just need the people to run it. But anyway, and also, what is the governance going to be? How are you going to govern this whole facility? Is it going to be like a little part of Yuba Water Agency over here that just does nothing but order, or could it be more like a nonprofit that would include people in the community and other as it's their thing and you're kind of underwriting it, but then that would be a buy-in from everybody to make it work better and bring people there if they had a say in it. And you know, the agency, made it help pull it together and organize it. But that's just a question that I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right. That's item 6.
We had one more comment from somebody online. Was there anybody else in the room?
Okay.
Good. Alicia, did you still have your comment?
Thank you. Yes, please. And I'll make it quick and hopefully hold most of my comments for a future meeting. But I did want you to hear just from the community support in many facets that I'm involved. I have been an educator locally for 16 years in the Yuba Foothills. I work with Browns Valley 4-H, Yuba County Search and Rescue that would greatly benefit from the Yuba Watershed Experience Center. And most importantly, I am a local resident. I live 2 miles up the road. So I am someone that would be impacted by the road, and any construction right now has already been causing some nuances and changes in my life. But knowing that the improvements are there and knowing that the benefit of the center far outweighs any of those temporary discomforts, As somebody who currently works at Marysville Joint Unified School District as a coordinator of innovation, I'm tasked with trying to increase STEM in the schools, and the benefit of having a local center is extremely valuable. For years, I've believed in field trips. I've taken multiple classes from Browns Valley Elementary to different waterways. Unfortunately, until just recently with the Yuba Water support and projects, I've always gone out of county for these field trips. I've taken them to Oroville. I've gone to places that are not local because that's what's been available. Having the opportunity to work with the Yuba Water Curriculum Writing Project with 4th grade, I know that the hands-on activities, the rigor is going to bring value to this area that we have not had locally. And so I hope that we can continue the momentum going forward in supporting this project and having some discussions about what we can do, because if you're talking about the importance of community investment, I do believe that this is one of the ways that you can do it. I've lived locally for 9 years, and until I got involved in the curriculum writing project, I really didn't know anything about Yuba Water Agency. I knew minimal about the watershed, and I think that the impact that you can have from making this go forward is going to be great. So I look forward to continued discussions. Thank you.
All right, any further comments? Nobody's got their hands raised?
No other seen online.
Okay, that's item 6. So let's get the third leg of the stool and the water education grant. I think that can cut your presentation short. That's pretty good.
Oh, send strength to all of you. Wanted to follow up the questions you asked earlier. One is, what is this? This is an opportunity to build an employable workforce in watershed management. It's an opportunity to strengthen Yuba County. On that note, there's a question earlier about Sierra College and other colleges with natural resources and other programs. So there was a study done by the Center of Excellence that was in the grant packet. There is a much higher demand for workforce in natural resources and watershed than there is a supply. And our proposal is about creating that supply for the workforce. I know one of the Yuba Water Agency's missions is economic development. This would build economic development in Yuba County. It's really important to note that people in Yuba County, it's not a natural just to go drive to Butte College or drive to Sierra College. This is an equity issue. We need to have our local college be able to provide education and training for the needs of our local region. This is what this proposal would do. Any other questions or clarifications?
I'm not sure of the right terminology, but some colleges say a field is impacted, which means they can't take any more students. Is this field, like at the colleges you mentioned, is it impacted, or are there extra space there? What I'm really trying to get to is, if we offer the course, are we going to get enough students to justify it?
There's programs such as nursing that would be considered impacted. The programs that serve natural resources in the areas are generally successful, but have spaces. But again, I want to talk about the people that we serve in our region, which is quite a lot in Yuba and Sutter County. They don't have an opportunity to get this training in natural resources and watershed management for the jobs and opportunities that are in this region. What's found is, if you go to another college outside your area, you work outside the area and you stay there. If you want your local residents and students of Yuba County to be here and work here and help it to thrive, we need to educate them here. We need to provide that opportunity. Now, I want to talk about one thing. An investment in this program will create internships for Yuba Water Agency and other agencies throughout this county. And these internships will ultimately lead to future employees for Yuba Water Agency and other agencies in our region. This is a smart investment, and it dovetails exactly with the vision that you have for science curriculum in our area to be a world-class science educated area to create really great jobs in STEM, that Yuba College could be a vital partner with you and others to bring it.
Would this curriculum be available through all the Yuba County college locations? Because we've got more than one campus. It's not just one campus. Is that correct?
Chair Vasquez, I will tell you, yes, it would be available. If we create a degree at Yuba College, students from Wheatland College and other sites will have access to this curriculum and can take classes. Thing to note is we have distance education. Students from all over the place can take the curriculum that would be created at Yuba College in natural resources and watershed management. And there is a demand for this curriculum and training.
Refresh my memory on what was the title of the degree that would come out of that?
It is watershed management is the title, but natural resources is the underlying field. And if you look at watershed management, it includes areas such as forestry, water quality, science and botany. I mean, it's a multidisciplinary topic. So I anticipate numerous certificates that will be very different sounding, such as equipment management with forestry emphasis. Yes, it's much more than watershed management. That was just the main focus for kind of a point of start.
So do you have other areas of study not related to this that you're considering developing degrees for, something outside water management?
So right now, Yuba College has an associate's degree in environmental studies. We have an associate's degree in physical sciences, geology, and those are areas that will overlap with watershed management. So there's courses that we already offer at Yuba College that would be part of this degree and part of the certificate already that are successful and students are taking it. What we're going to do is we're going to round it out and find out what our employers in the region wants and needs for Yuba County to make it more localized to our needs and not outside.
But are there other areas that may have more of a demand that you're considering?
Absolutely. If you look at, I mean, Placer County, Sacramento, I mean, the needs for natural resources and our watershed goes up to all the way up to Quincy, California. I mean, you look at the Feather River. I mean, the watershed is long and a lot of work and a lot of employment that needs to be done to preserve it. And
so I don't think I'm asking the question right.
Okay, help me out.
So other degrees not at all related to what we're talking about that there's a demand for that you might want to develop. You already have nursing. It was pretty popular. Weights and measures. Are there other areas that you want to develop also?
Full plate.
We have quite a lot. I mean, we're continuously improving the degrees we have, and we work with the community's demands. At this point, I mean, we recently just added an element to early childhood education to meet California's changing policy with regard to having pre-K. So I can just tell you, I didn't come here today wanting to ask you for a different degree.
Right.
And I can tell you that faculty and people will come up to say, we should try this degree. But I mean, I'm struggling with this line of questioning, Trustee Blazer.
I'm struggling with asking it. I just didn't know if there was some sort of competition for new degrees, like you have the water and you have other.
No, I can assure you that right now, we don't have faculty and members of the college that are saying we want this degree instead of the watershed management degree. So that is not taking place right now. I mean, honesty is If we have full-time faculty, that would be a different story. And that's another reason I'll talk about, we need to have pilot funding, because that would be a competition, would be for who gets a full-time faculty. And if it's provided as seed funding, it's not competing against other faculty needs, such as like chemistry.
Okay, I think we're on the same page.
Was that a motion?
Through the chair. Before you get to that point, what I just heard is the opportunity to start the motion and a model that helps Yuba County within the forestry, the water, jobs that are real jobs for the rest of our lifetime. If that seed money expands into these other areas, absolutely a great program. We are the partner to come to. I'll make the motion, we approve this. I love it. Don't let go of that piece. There are lots of pieces attached to this. And Yuba College is a great place to begin.
Okay, I need a
I'll
second.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second. Any more comments from the board while we have a chance? Or I'll call the question and we'll, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We do have public comment, Mr. Chair. There's public comment online.
Oh, okay. All right.
If I could have Anna Newman.
Hi, I just had a question. Is it Mr. Bagley that's there?
Yes, Anna, this is me. It's Michael Bagley.
Hi, Michael. Hey, what you sound like, I was just got done working with 4 of the feeder schools into the community colleges on the Strong Workforce Grant. And I know that's also available for Yuba College, or Strong Workforce Plan, or I forgot the exact name of it. But there's like $248 million out there for, it sounds like just the program that you're proposing. Are you aware of that and have already looked into it?
So thanks for the question, Anna. So absolutely aware of it. And just to throw a plug, Yuba College and myself were involved with writing and working together with Yuba Water Agency's Science in the Classroom. And some of the schools, including Bear River Middle School, have actually written recent Strong Workforce Grant applications with Yuba College for areas such as, natural resources and STEM. So there is quite a bit of funding in Strong Workforce. It's a career technical education categorical fund from the state of California. It's been consistent. And we already put in the application that we had planned to use it early on, if this proposal were supported, to work on recruiting and marketing of our local schools to let them know about this new program. So yes, thank you, Anna. There is much additional funding that Yuba College would have to contribute to the success of this watershed management and STEM program.
Thank you. And there is a lot of money available, consistent money, like you said. And also, I think it's really important to articulate with the high schools, because they're all required by the state to do these career pathways. And part of the push is to start the career pathway in the high schools, if not the junior highs, and then continue and finish the pathway through the local community college. And so reaching out to the high schools for some of those initial courses and curriculums is super important for, I think, recruiting people into the program at Yuba College.
Absolutely. The term used in community colleges is guided pathways, but it's definitely part of career technical education. One of my other roles at Yuba College is the head of dual enrollment, working with the high schools to help them out with offering classes to their students for college credit. I'll give you an example of one of our great partnerships is with Wheatland High School, and they have an agricultural pathway with Yuba College. And one of the courses in an ag pathway would be soil science. And soil science would fit perfectly with this watershed management. As we heard from our presenters on the watershed experience, the erosion issues. So soil science and working with local high schools for dual enrollment in this STEM pathway are a natural fit. They've already started and they would just be enhanced by this approval.
All right, we're gonna have to take a break here soon. So
That would be a beautiful pathway. That's great. Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we got a motion to second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Opposed?
Opposed.
Okay, motion passes. Let's take a 5-minute break at least. Go into closed session. Is that all right, Willie?
I got my manager's report. I'd like to zip through that and I can make it quick and then we could go
Okay.
into break. Okay. But before I do that, the item on all the grants, I guess it's discussion item 4 today. It was a bit fragmented. We've changed our grant process. We've talked about that. And our concept was to bring all the grants as a package. I think we're going to stick with that. And in the future, if there's items that need to be pulled and discussed in more detail, we can do that. But I'm going to direct staff to keep the concept, bring it the same way we brought it today, and continue that and see if we can move that through and gain momentum in that process.
I think these are very unique grants.
Yeah.
That I want to.
I just wanted to be clear that we're going to keep with the same program. Okay. Let me get my bearings here. I'm going to make this very quick because we've gone a long time here. I think the most important thing I want to report on is the record-setting storm that we got 2 weekends ago. Although it was wonderful and we're not going to complain about it, it's not a drought buster. It was great. New Bullards Bar came up 50,000 feet, or 50,000 acre feet, about 20 feet in elevation. We got 7 to 11 inches of precipitation in the watershed, a little bit of snow in the tail end of the storm. It was wonderful, and it looks like the storm window is somewhat open. We had precipitation yesterday, but it was great, but more is needed to get us out of the drought. The Narrows 2 unit is back from annual outage. It came back late last week, so things are going well there. Right now, all of our units are online as planned. We're planning to go into the Colgate outages in the next few weeks. Tim Trung, our chief dam safety engineer, has started a major project in the dam right now. It's been in planning for a few years. It's the New Bullards Bar Dam Foundation remediation. It started this week. It'll continue through next April. This is unlike the spillway where I report to you about the spillway maintenance because you can see it. This is actually happening inside the dam, and it consists of drilling 29 new foundation drains, drilling and installing 10 uplift pressure monitors, flow tests using packers, don't know what that means, and flow meters and drilled holes, and collection and disposal of drainage in compliance with permitting requirements. The bottom line is this is an uplift pressure dam safety project that I want you to be aware of, but you won't see it. You're spending a bunch of money on it though. Okay, with all that, I think the most exciting thing was we got a call from new Fox Weather channel, which just started a couple weeks ago, and they saw us on YubaNet and a couple other local news outlets and said, hey, we want to do a story on atmospheric rivers. So they got myself and Marty Ralph of Scripps on, I think it was Friday morning, and we talked about the weather balloon launches and we talked about operations related to atmospheric rivers and that type of stuff. So we were on a national weather channel last Friday. There's a bunch more stuff, but I just think I can report it later, and I think we're good. That's all I have unless you have questions for me.
I wanted to hear about the 49er game.
And I gave a presentation at Mountain County's annual conference last Wednesday about atmospheric rivers and related items. And I pointed out that you can learn more about atmospheric rivers watching Sunday Night Football than you can with all of the presentations we've ever seen. They had a wonderful presentation of atmospheric rivers because the game was happening during the peak of that storm. Wow. So we're trying to get a clip of it to show, but the whole country now knows what an atmospheric river is. It's on the map.
All right.
That's it. Thank you.
Is that good? Can we have a break before closed session now? Thank you. We're gonna have a report. We come back. We'll come back for I gotta. Sorry, you're about 2 hours past my time.
Yeah, that's what we do right now.
Recording
I don't want to get paid. How?
All aboard!
show you how. Live streaming can be simple and not expensive. You may already have the basic tools right in your hand. But it's more than just pushing live to communicate effectively. That's where Yuba-Sutter.LIVE and Live Streaming YS on Facebook can help you. Make it easy to jump in. Just give us a call at 530-301-2931 or visit our website, www.yuba-sutter.live. Yuba-Sutter's home of live streaming and live streaming tools, live streaming services, technology, and training. Live streaming is Yuba-Sutter.LIVE.